it's crazy that I think if there's people out there that think they're really, really far out from reaching the success that they want to reach, start thinking it's a lot closer than you think. It could be a month from here. It could be in a couple of weeks. It could be in like 12 months. But when you look back at it, I'm like, man, we've come a long way. And it just came down to some of those people that we just met. Associations are everything. And they just changed the way that we thought. And then we just went down a different trajectory.
Welcome to Seven Figure Entrepreneur Podcast, the number one podcast bringing you behind the scenes with real online earners. No fake gurus here. And today we have the wonderful Ruben Resendez. It's good to have you back, man. We also got the wonderful Tyler Devon as per usual. Guys, we're on fire with these podcasts. I think we've done 3 in the last 30 days, which is big for us. That's a big move.
We've been busy.
So yeah. We're going to try and keep it going for everyone here. So, yeah. All right. Ruben, what's going on, man?
Yeah. Last time I was on, I think you guys were just on a roll. I think it was like 1 a week and you're popping them out like crazy too. And that was also before a whole entire pandemic as well, when we last got together.
It's crazy we haven't talked in that long.
Yeah. I'm surprised. It seems like we talked like not too long ago, but it has been quite a while since the last time that we talked. It was crazy.
I've actually word on the streets you've been making moves, man. So I'm excited to get updated.
Yeah, it's been exciting times, especially since the pandemic and everything too. I think last time that we talked, we were only hiring in the office, and I was working out of the office and everything too. And we're only hiring in Silicon Valley, which, cost of living in Silicon Valley, a little expensive. That's out there. And so a lot of the team members we're hiring on were pretty expensive team members that we're hiring on too. But now since the pandemic, we've gone totally remote and just really embraced the whole entire remote living and been able to hire on some amazing people all across the U.S. We've been able to hire on the East Coast, Florida, Philadelphia, Virginia, even in between Arizona and Texas and Detroit, and still have a good base here in California too. So everybody's expanded all around the U.S. now, which is super exciting. I think since the last time that we talked, we've probably doubled in size in terms of head count, also just expanded our call center just tremendously. I think the last time that we talked, we maybe had 10 call center reps. Now we have 90 call center reps, and the call center side is just growing tremendously. Wow. The EDU side is growing tremendously too. So yeah, it's been some exciting stuff since the last time that we talked.
That's very cool, man. Before we dive into that though, do you want to give us a breakdown of what it is you do?
Yeah. So absolutely. So I'll give a little background behind myself because maybe they haven't listened to the first one. So started in internet marketing, man, a little bit over 15 years ago. So started internet marketing with about $300 in my pocket and never grew a business before. Actually, the way I got introduced to internet marketing was through an affiliate network that I used to be an affiliate manager for. At that affiliate network, I used to do financial services like mortgage loans and all that good stuff. Then 2008 hit, big old financial crisis. And I was living on 100% commission, and all my clients dried up. And I basically had $500 to my name. And the girl I was going out with told me she's pregnant with my son as well. I was like, all right, great. Got a son on the way, got $500 to my name. I have no idea where my next paycheck's going to come from because I'm living on 100% commission. I'm like, all right, so I got to go get one of those JOBs that everybody always says, never get a JOB, and all that stuff. So I looked on Craigslist and found this job that was at this internet marketing company that did lead generation in the education space. I didn't know what the heck it was. I just knew I needed a paycheck yesterday. They offered a $30,000 salary as an affiliate manager. I didn't know what an affiliate manager was whatsoever. Then I get in there, and after about a week, I'm over here talking to these affiliates that were we're sending them $250,000 checks every month. This is the Wu Yi Tea days and the acai berry days.
Oh,
and
the good stuff.
It was crazy. I had no idea this world even existed whatsoever. And every time I would talk to them, they're traveling all over the place. They're just send me the link. I'll implement it. I'm going to South Africa right now. It's all right, I'll send you the link. I send them the link, send them another $250,000 check. And then I call them again saying, hey, what about this offer that just came up? And they're like, oh, send me the link. I'm on the way to Europe right now. Like, man, these guys are going all over the place. They're like 19, 20 years old. Like, what the heck is this thing? So that's when it just became an obsession. I said, I don't know what this thing is, but I became obsessed. I said, I want to know everything there is to know about this internet marketing, affiliate marketing space. And I want to know who the big players are. And I want to become friends with the big players. So that was like, man, over 15 years ago. My son's now about to be 15 this year.
Amazing.
Going through puberty, the whole entire deal. His testosterone is through the roof. The conversations are interesting. I know, Gabe, you just had a baby too. So you'll experience this in, 12, 13 more years of that.
Yeah.
Too. But yeah, he kind of marks that my start of finding my passion and obsession these days of just internet marketing, affiliate marketing. And I love the space so much. Eventually got fired. I think it was, maybe like 10 years ago now is when I got fired and got myself fired. I lived on unemployment. I said, I'm going to do this affiliate marketing thing, going full time into this affiliate marketing thing. Worked until like 2 a.m. in the morning every night, slept maybe 4 hours a day in doing it. And, eventually I wasn't making very much money in the beginning. So my house went into foreclosure, moved back in with my son. My son and I moved back in with my parents in my early 30s. So freaking embarrassing. Moved back in with my parents in my old room again on the east side of San Jose, which most people would say is like the wrong side of the tracks. And man, I grew up in the east side of San Jose, and, the wealthiest person that we saw over there was like the neighborhood drug dealer, and he probably wasn't making very much either or anything like that. But the crazy thing too is think back about it, even the high school I went to was so crazy and so filled with so many statistics because it was majority of all minorities. And, the campus even had a daycare center on campus because all the kids were having kids. It was like just total spitting out statistics like left and right that were out there. I didn't realize that was abnormal until I got around friends later on of like, oh, you guys didn't have a daycare center on your high school? You're like, oh, it's not normal that for kids to be having kids and everything. So crazy environment that I grew up in, but grew up with a good family and such too. But moved back in with my parents at that time when I got fired from that job, and just went all in with this affiliate marketing and internet marketing thing, and grew a company named adHere. And, didn't really know how to pay myself. So I don't come from like an entrepreneur background, or like nobody in my family's ever built businesses or anything like that. I dropped out of college and never got a college degree or anything of that sort. I was like, I need to build this business. My son was born for a reason to point me in this direction.
That's amazing.
So after, my unemployment ran out, went on to food stamps, the whole entire deal. Like, I don't come from money, and my family doesn't come from money or anything like that. So there was no use in asking my parents for money. It was already embarrassing enough. I was living under the roof in my early 30s. Mm-hmm. So eventually built it and learned, the hard way how to build the business, and just worked my butt off for probably about a good 2 years straight before really figuring it out, and figuring out how to scale, how to get people involved, and how to develop a lot more leadership abilities, and not just rely on just me, and actually start building a real company instead of just trying to do just the affiliate thing. And man, over the past couple of years now, we've already hit the Inc. 5000 like 2 years in a row. And this year we'll hit it again.
Congrats.
And it's been an amazing ride. Got voted, Silicon Valley Business Journal's like 40 under 40, like barely squeaked into there and everything. But it all started of like just in that small little bedroom with that idea of like, I want to do this affiliate marketing thing. And when I look back at it, and it's crazy to look back at it because there's all these times when you don't know why these things are happening to you, but they're actually happening for you in those instances. So at that time when I didn't know how to be a dad, and I found out I was going to be a dad, I was like, man, like I'm supposed to be the kid that like goes and graduates college and like does something with his life and everything. I was supposed to be the one in my family, and now it's going to take a different turn. Then I realized like, man, if my son wasn't born, I would have never have found out about the internet marketing industry, affiliate marketing. I would have never have found my passion and my obsession today that I think about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when I look at him, when I was building this business in the very beginning and going through those challenges and those struggles, I would look at him and say, man, this kid was born for a reason to point me in this direction. So now that I look back at it, I'm like, man, everything was happening for me. It wasn't happening to me. it was actually happening for me to point me in this direction. So exciting on like what we're doing now and the things that we have going on, in the company. And I think, my son for pointing me in that direction every time I see him. And I think I ran into his mom and she had him, and it pointed me in this direction to find some of my best friends too that I found in this industry. Like I said in the very beginning, I wanted to become friends with all the biggest players in the industry. And I've done that, and they're exciting to be around, and associations are huge.
Yeah.
What I've learned too, like,
dude, I love it, man.
Yeah.
If I'm ever having a bad day, I'm just going to call you and listen to you for a few minutes.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think that's pretty cool. The transition from thinking that things were happening to you to things were happening for you. And I feel that
yeah, absolutely.
It's such a simple thing, but I feel like a lot of people are stuck in that victim mindset. We're just like, oh, shit's happening to me all the day, all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a huge pivot point.
And that's my mission too in life, is like when I look back at it, like, I'm glad that I went on to food stamps. I'm glad that I went broke. I'm glad I grew up on the east side of San Jose. I'm glad that I didn't, graduate college, because somebody could look at me and be like, man, if this freaking idiot can do it, like, what is my excuse? Like, what is my excuse? So I feel like I've been put onto this world to inspire others to elevate their lives. And I went through all of that so that way somebody can look at me and just be like, I really have no excuse. Like, I grew up in a good household. I grew up with a good family. I came from a family that were entrepreneurs, got college degrees and all that different stuff. Like, you got way more than I have ever achieved. Like, you can do whatever it is that you want to do in your life. So that's my whole entire mission. I mean, that's why I'm on here, is like, hopefully I could inspire one person to elevate their lives and just make a move. Maybe if there's one thing I say for them to get up off the couch and say, that's it. Today's the day I stop making excuses and stop playing the victim. Because I know growing up in high school, I used to think like, man, just because my last name is Resendez and I grew up in this area, I got to do whatever my parents did or whatever I've seen in my high school do. Like, I didn't think I could be an entrepreneur. Nobody looked like me that were entrepreneurs, and nobody talked like me or grew up in my family or grew up in my neighborhood that were entrepreneurs. So like, I didn't see it. I wasn't exposed to any of it at all. So in my mind, I thought, man, all those guys, they were born into it. They were born into the families that like have all that wealth and success and make their dreams and their visions come true. And that's the sad part, is that a lot of people still think like that. So that's my mission, is just to inspire them, you can't think like that. You got to be exposed to different.
It's funny, until this moment, man, I never realized, but that's a belief I used to have too.
Man.
If anything, because I'm a new father as well, like not as new as Gabe, but my son's 18 months old. And I think about, how do I raise like a non-entitled, non-spoiled kid?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a different problem.
Yep.
Yeah, right? But no, that's interesting, man. That's interesting you brought that up. I never considered that before.
That's actually, I think, my biggest challenge now, because I feel like it's such an advantage that like I've went through what I went through, and I grew up the way that I grew up, because I feel like I could just relate to everybody. I can relate to anybody and everybody because I've been through all of that. Now, the challenge I deal with is like, how do I teach my kids to, as a father and as a parent, you want to protect them as much as possible. You don't want to see them get heartbroken. You don't want to see them hit their face on the ground and go through challenges. But in reality, the reason why we are doing what we're doing is because we went through challenges. We went through heartbreaks. And that's the fact, is like, now that we can give them a certain type of life that maybe we didn't have growing up, I run with this challenge of like, am I giving them too much? And am I exposing them to too much of this too? Like, there's like one instance, like my kids aren't brats or anything like that, but they're like, normal teenage kids. Like, we take them to go to the Warriors game, and we're sitting courtside on the floor, front row and everything. And we're walking in and everything. And then my son goes, why do we have to go to the Warriors game? I wanted to go to that play at school today. Why do we have to go to the Warriors game? It's like, you didn't even tell me about that play at school otherwise than doing that. Yeah. Like, these kids like have no idea, but then they'll realize it later on, when they get old enough where they got to pay for the courtside tickets themselves. They're like,
that shit ain't cheap.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
They have no idea behind it. But it's one of those things where like, man, I want to give them the life, and that's what motivates me. I want to give them the life that I never had, but I don't want to give them too much either. Like, that's the balancing act, like you said, Tyler, of like, man, I don't want them to grow up entitled either. Like, how do I teach them to make sure that they work hard and they get everything by putting in work and doing it? So yeah, the challenge that I deal with every day.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's been on my mind too. It's funny. I talked to another dad who's done pretty well, and his net worth is probably like it's multiple 8 figures, not 9 figures, multiple 8 figures. And he said when his kids were born, he drafted his will in a way where they got everything, and now they're like 10, 12 years old, and now he's redrafting it to take almost all of it away. Because he's like, man, I just realized I wasn't doing them any favors. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 10 years from now where he's at. But it's like the shift you kind of go through as like, a parent of like, how much is too much? How much is not enough? And finding that balance.
100%. 100%. That is the tough balance. Gabe's over here looking like, oh, shoot. Yeah.
No. I think about this all the time, man. Because I'm just like, I know, like, I didn't come from anything either, man. Like, we grew up pretty poor. And I was like, yeah, it made me who I am. And I'm proud of who I am today. So I just, and then I see some, like, because we have friends who have kids that are definitely better off than we were as kids. I was like, man, these kids are like little assholes, and it's not the parents' fault. Well, right. I guess it is the parents' fault, but like they're good parents. But it's still just like, dude, if my kid said that to me, I would just like punch him in the gut, like
exactly. Just wait, Gabe, until they say that to you too. You're like, that's when you're going to be tested. Like, oh man,
yeah,
you're going to go against the wall.
Yeah. Well, dude, let's talk about what you're doing nowadays. Your growth is unreal. Having 90 call center agents. First of all, it sounds like a lot of freaking work.
Yeah.
But what is it that you're doing day to day? How?
What's interesting is like the biggest transition I've had over the past couple years is, and it's interesting that you actually have that book behind you too, Tyler, is Who Not How.
Which one?
Who Not How has been the key. Like, I used to always figure out, you got on the shelf back there. You got a big old who that is back there on the shelf. And there we go. Right.
I've never seen
you
that
got the
one.
whole entire workbook as well. That's a huge
dude.
One right there.
Dan Sullivan, Who Not How. I actually joined Strategic Coach. I've been going to California every few months. It's been a phenomenal program.
Oh, wow. I've got some friends that are in Strategic Coach. After this, I'll send you some of the names that are in Strategic Coach.
Please.
Yeah, one of my business coaches actually is in Strategic Coach, and he's the one who introduced me to Who Not How. And he's been an amazing resource for me because I always go to him of like, so how do you develop these incentive plans? How can I grow this call center? How can I grow into another vertical? How can I like expand the business and grow 100% year over year? And he always goes back to, it's not the how, it's always the who. Who do you need to talk to in order to expand another vertical? Who do you need to talk to expand your call center to 90 agents? Like, who is it that you need in the business to go and expand that? So it's changed my mind over the past couple of years of like, all right, I'm always used to just grinding it out. I do everything. All right, I'm here, I'm there, I'm integrated with the team, I'm training the team, personally developing the team, like every single day, putting in the work, 10, 12 hours every single day. I'm here, I'm there. Everybody's coming to me for everything. My Slack messages are going off like crazy and everything. That was like a good, like for the past, I don't know, before about a year and a half ago or so. But I started getting introduced to Who Not How. I was like, okay, who can help me build this business? Who has come from a business? My vision is to build this business to $100 million business within the next 24 months. So it's not about me building it. It's who do I need to talk to that comes from a business that's already done 100 million, and how can we get them integrated into our whole entire system and get them excited about what we're doing? So the amazing growth has come from like this year, we're on track to do about 50 million in revenue and top line revenue. And the bottom has increased tremendously too in the same factor, but it's all because we brought in great who's. We got a VP of call center who comes from a very, very well credible, business that is in our space. And she came on board and just took our center from 10 agents to over 90 agents. And then we have a great chief operating officer now. If you know the EOS model, we've been running the EOS model for about 3 years, but I've always been the visionary.
So I've only heard about EOS, that Strategic Coach. I know literally nothing about it. So if you wouldn't mind, first of all, giving me
what is EOS?
Background.
Yeah. So one of those guys, when I first started, where I'm like, I got to be friends with these super affiliates. Like when I first started, we were seeing $250,000 checks being sent out when I worked at that affiliate network. One of the guys I would always follow at that time that I wanted to be really good friends with was Charles No. So old school legend, Charles No. He dropped the bombs. I don't know if his website is still up now or not. I haven't looked at it. But I would always watch everything that he does. And he was always very systematic and logical about how he was building his affiliate marketing business. So he would always mention this book called Traction all the time. And eventually I got to become really good friends with Charles and still really good friends to this day. But he would always recommend Traction.
I'm downloading it right now.
Yeah, amazing book. So I read this book, Traction, because I saw him say it. I saw like two or three other people say it. And then they talk about this entrepreneurial operating system that your business has to run on an operating system, just like how your phone runs on an operating system, that every business has an operating system that they run on. So I was like, okay, we don't really have an operating system that we run on, or no real way where we have check-ins. I'm kind of the only one looking at the numbers, how we're growing month over month, year over year, and like all those scorecard items. So I read through this book and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to implement this. I sit down the next day and stare at my computer for about, 10 hours trying to put together, okay, there's this whole entire organizer that they talk about that you got to have and that you put together. And you put together the EOS model with a vision, a mission, and a core values. Like I used to think that was stupid MBA, Stanford stuff of like having a mission that for a company, values part of the company. Like that, I just want to build a business that's profitable and that does great stuff. I didn't even think that would even make a big difference. But I think once you start getting a whole bunch of people involved, they got to know what the mission of the company is. They got to know what the vision of that leader is too. And they got to hear it all the time. And they got to know that the company stands for something. Because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So they want to know what the company really stands for. So in that EOS model, it walks you through how to develop a mission, how to develop your core values. So I started working on it and I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting it, got an Excel sheet. Then the next day worked on it again. And after I'm like staring at it, I'm like, man, there's who, not how. There's got to be somebody who can do this instead. So I searched it up and we found this EOS implementer. She came to me and I was like, we want somebody who has built a business before, that's young, that's like really energetic, and found this amazing EOS implementer. She's still our EOS implementer today. She's such a hard ass too. Like she will not take no for an answer and she will make sure that you get stuff done that you said you're supposed to get done. But she's,
every EOS person I met has been a woman and they are like literally no bullshit, cut right through it. Just insanely fact-based. I've always been blown away.
And the best part too is like part of our organization, we didn't do this purposefully, but it's worked out organically like this. About 60% of our leadership team are female, and probably like 55% of our whole entire organization are female too. They're amazing drivers. So it's great to have this implementer who's a female who they can look to of like, damn, this girl's a hard ass. Like I need to start stepping up my game a little bit more. They get inspired by seeing what she does. But yeah, she spent like 2 days with me. She was like, okay, so tell me, what do you want this company to do? And I said, oh, well, I want this company to inspire others to elevate their lives. Like that's my mission. And that's what I would love. Anything that I do every day, all day long, I want this company to do that too. She's like, all right, that's our mission statement that we're going to go with. We're going to inspire others to elevate their lives. And everything that we do in the ads that we create and the verticals that we get into and in our colleagues, we want to inspire every single person that comes into contact with us to elevate their lives and go to the next level. So we're like, all right, and what's our vision? Where are we going to be in the next 10 years? Where are we going to be in the next 5 years? Where are we going to be in the next year? What's your revenue plan? Where do we want to be? So we threw that out there, the 10-year plan. Here's where we're going to be. Here's the 5-year plan. And then we started working backwards and saying, all right, who do we need in place? What does the organization look like with all that too? So we spent 2 days, 8 hours a day, just getting all this stuff locked down and saying like, what profitability do we want to be at? Now she created a scorecard. So like every week we go through these scorecard items with our leadership team, and every single department has their own, what we call level 10s that we run every single week, which go through the scorecard items of like, what's the profitability look like? What's the revenue look like? What's the quality look like? What's the acceptance rate? What's the return rates? Where each client, what's our client diversity look like? What does our traffic diversity look like? So we report on these numbers every single week with certain goals that we want to achieve. So there's a power when you speak out those goals, and you've got now the rest of the team members speaking the same goals. Now my stress level is like alleviated so much more because we got the rest of the team focused on stuff that I would just carry on just my shoulders. Now everybody's got insight and transparency. They know why we do what we do. They know where we're going. They know where the goal is, and we repeat it every single week. And now we run on it. And now there's accountability because they got to report on those numbers and they know what KPIs that they're responsible for. So now I don't have to worry about like having one-on-ones with every single person because now the system runs the business rather than me running the business. Now it's just systematic all day long. So that's been a huge difference maker right there in the business. Huge difference maker.
That's so cool.
I've been going through something similar. We brought on these guys. I think I've talked about on the podcast before, but it's called SEAL Team Leaders. You check them out, sealteamleaders.com. And they have a really good book about leadership. I really like the second half of the book. The first half of the book was a bit slow. We brought them on for similar stuff, just systemizing the whole organization from top to bottom. And they're very big on having something they call a COA, a Chief Action Officer. And it's basically making sure that everyone gets their job done. But now we have ongoing rolling metrics. We have scorecards. We have a green light, red light system. So it's like, we send a lot of email. How's our deliverability this week? Well, it's soft yellow. What does a soft yellow mean? How do we compare to previous weeks? Are we up or down? But it's so cool for not only me, but for everyone else in the organization to see the momentum. When mail is growing week to week, clicks, EPC, everything is growing week to week. It just builds this energy and momentum that people get behind. And I feel like it gets them more bought into like where we're going and what we're doing.
Yeah. Rather than you trying to motivate them like every single day of like, come on, let's go. Remember what we're trying to do. Like they got to know why they're showing up to work every single day. Like what's our mission? Man. What's the metrics that we're being held to and what are we trying to push forward? Like I like email. It's cool. But like, what are we trying to do with email? Like what are the actual numbers that you want me to reach with email? I love that. I love that. Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And in the EOS model, it talks about too of like quarterly rocks, which basically gives everybody like a specific goal to reach every single quarter. So everybody's got their own rocks, which are reverse engineered from the revenue numbers that we're trying to reach based off of our 1-year plan, our 3-year plan, and our 5-year plan. Where it's like, just like what you said, maybe there's SOPs we need to develop this quarter. So it's like, all right, everybody's rock is to develop 3 SOPs for their job responsibility. So that way we just have it systematic. People can just run through those SOPs. But isn't it crazy how like we're talking about this stuff when in reality it just started with affiliate marketing, like buying some media and like sending to a link and an offer. And then at some point you're like, how do I make this thing consistent? Because there's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
And that's when SOPs get involved. The EOS model, you get other people involved. And man, it's just like having kids. When you get more team members involved, that you got to provide for them. And that's my biggest motivation these days. Now it's more of the more people that we get involved, the more I'll do more for them than I'll actually do for myself. So I love getting more team members involved because it just expands our mind. It continues to help us grow and achieve so much more because we got more gas in the tank every time a new person gets involved. And we're like, all right, we got to make this thing not just consistent, but growing consistently, like every single month over month to make sure, hey, they're taken care of and the business is taken care of too. So yeah, it's exciting. It's super exciting.
I love that.
Awesome,
yeah.
Dude. That's very cool.
So what, cause I remember you guys, and forgive me, man, I know you guys were taking calls. I know you guys were doing education. I think you're doing some Leadgen on the front end. Where is the business at and how has it changed from when we chatted a couple of years ago?
Yeah. So when we chatted a couple of years ago, we were 100% just in education lead generation. That's how I started in the whole entire business is like, we have direct relationships with so many universities and colleges that are out there that we've built over the years because I've started in the education space. And then I bought media myself and bought it on Facebook myself and figured that whole entire thing out, then taught other media buyers to do it. Now we have media buyers that are teaching other media buyers, and media buyers are way better than I've ever bought media and everything. So we started in the education space. And then, over the past couple of years, what we've started to do is realize like we love the education space and still has so much more opportunity to, generate so much more growth. But what we want to do is not be just a one-trick pony. We want to make sure that we diversify and we don't put all of our eggs in just one basket. So the best thing I love about this industry is that no matter where the economy is, there's always something that we can pivot to. So we've started to expand into consumer finance. Like the US debt ceiling is getting higher and higher and higher. So how do we inspire them to like pay off their debt and make sure like we can connect them with the right tools and the right resources to help them pay off their debt in that way? So we work with a lot of debt companies and debt consolidation, debt relief companies to do that, credit repair companies as well. So consumer finance is a vertical that we've really expanded into. And then recently too, we've really found that there's a lot of great opportunities in health insurance. So like ACA, for example, is a big one. Like I didn't even know, there was an Obamacare Act that was passed, and there's like this free health insurance that could be offered to US citizens that are out there. And it's a great opportunity for them and a great opportunity for us. So we've been able to implement that in our call center and start to expand and doing like a lot more click to call as well in that instance, where it's like, all right, we're not just media buying and just generating form leads. Now we're able to do click to call leads and generate data to feed into our call center. So it's like just diversified all of our traffic sources like that. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. So, because I know there's click to call offers out there, right? You guys do warm transfers then? The leads come to you, they call into you guys pre-qualify, and then you do a warm transfer on that?
Yep, exactly it right there. Exactly it. So we generate all of our own data and generate it all first party data and then feed that into our center. And then the center dials on it and says, hey, I know you were interested in, let's say, education, for example. I know you're interested in furthering your education. Maybe I could help you and guide you along the way. So they go and match them with a program and say, oh, it looks like this school is a great fit for you. They have the program that you're looking to request and also in your area. Is it okay if I send them your information? I say yes. And then it goes and gets sent on over to the school from there. Or if that school is taking the warm transfer, we'll say, hey, do you actually have about 15 to 20 minutes to talk to an admissions rep right now if you're available? And they say, oh, yeah, I do have 15, 20 minutes. Then we transfer it on over to the school from there, which is some of the highest quality stuff.
Dude, that quality must be insane.
Yeah, that person's ready to go. They say, yeah, I got some time and I'm interested, rather than waiting on the school to call them back later on where, then they got to remarket to them, or they're calling from a number that the person doesn't even like recognize and they won't pick up from there. So that's where the transfers and the click to call become big.
Do you find as you go on doing this that you are preferring click to call more so than form, just because I'm assuming the quality is better? You're probably getting way more conversions out of it.
Yeah. And the transfers are huge too in our center. So those calls, it's been a space we kind of ignored a couple years ago. We had like 10 reps and we were looking at it, and we brought on our VP of call center and implemented and transferred over to like a different dialer system and everything, implemented this ANI system called outbound ANI, which kind of goes over a lot of the caller ID blocking and everything like that. And that's what grew our call center to over 90 agents now. And it's been our best quality channel that we have out of any other channel that we had. It used to be like Facebook was our best quality, like amazing. Yeah. Now we've been able to find the contact center and the calls side just be even better quality.
Buyers must love you, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the key. Like now like our one focus is like, all right, how do we scale quality a lot more, and how do we systematize it so we could scale it even more? And that's what keeps the clients coming around. That's what has us on a run rate to do over 50 million this year because of the quality. And they're like, hey, we'll keep on giving you guys budget if you guys keep on generating that quality that you're generating right now.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Huge.
It's interesting. You think about at the end of the day, like the underlying, thing that you're essentially saying, figure out how to add more value.
That's it.
How do you add more value so people are happier? They'd rather buy leads from you. I think sometimes people get very short-sighted in the space, and they're so worried about their front-end margin that they don't think about the quality and how to add value in the back end. But if you can figure out how to go over and above the next guy, and, obviously you have a whole call center infrastructure, there's a lot that goes into that. But even like there's other things you can do. There's stuff that we do because we sell leads, and we do some stuff in the legal space. And that's worked out really well for us. But if you just show that you add more value, you care more, it's amazing the budgets that are out there. When other people are limited, if anything, they just want to spend all their money with you.
That's the truth right there.
Even on the affiliate side, like I find even at like if you're just buying traffic, running to affiliate offers, man, if you can have your quality 10% better than the next guy, all the cap's going to get given to you. You're never going to run out of stuff. Like we have one guy who,
and they'll pay more.
100%. I have one guy who bought my course, man, and he's just like the quality king. And he's been so consistent for the past like 13, 14 months. Like every month he just crushes. And it's just because he has amazing quality. He gets fantastic cap, and he just is running the same style ad over and over and over again. So, I feel like there's a lot of people in this affiliate space that are very up and down. So I think that the consistency and at the volume that he's hitting, like 6-figure months, like it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's the part that I think not too many people talk about. Everybody always talks about ROI and ROAS and all that good stuff too. But here's part of the company. What we know is that there's 3 pillars to our success and that drive this whole entire business. And it's fulfillment, which comes down to revenue, and profitability and quality. And if any of these 3 are off, then that's like a pretty wobbly, we kind of look at it as if it's like a sitting stool, like a 3-legged sitting stool. And those are the 3 pillars that are keeping up that stool, which is quality, fulfillment, which is revenue, and profitability. If quality isn't there, that's a pretty uncomfortable seat to be sitting in. But just like how you said, Tyler, like I firmly believe that I wake up every single day saying, how can I provide value? I want to become a person of value to every single person that I come into contact with today, no matter what it might be. It might even just be providing a smile or having a good conversation where I inspire somebody to like elevate their lives. But also the quality piece of everything that we do in business, people forget about the quality that once you generate quality to another business and you give them value, and they're going to give you value right back. You can't ask for something for nothing. And once you provide that value to people, it could be in a variety of different ways too. Obviously, if you provide value in the product, you're going to get a lot back in return too. But how could you even go above and beyond? Some of the things that we started implementing, like we have a chief heart officer. We call her the chief heart officer because she just has an amazing heart on what she does. And we're like, hey, can you kind of look and send, one of our clients just had their dog pass away. Can we send something very heartfelt with a heartfelt note and a heartfelt letter, like me with a picture of like their dog where they could keep it on their desk at all times too? And the client receives that and I'm like, oh, I can't believe you guys actually listened to what I was saying and like really heard me. Like it had nothing to do with business, but had everything to do with that. And that just strengthened the relationship so much more. It's like, how can we also do that even with our team members too? We have like so many things that we do with our team members to make sure we're providing value in every single person's life, even beyond just the product that we're delivering over to them. And when we become a person of value, it's like everything that we do is valuable and it all reciprocates whether we're asking for something in return or not. It's just a universal law.
I love it.
Dude, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I was thinking, I'm like, man, what if Gabe was our chief heart officer?
He's got a heart on his chest right now too, so he might be. I think he's already vying for that position.
You're right.
To be honest, Tyler, I'm probably the most like thoughtful friend you fucking have.
You know what, bro? You are thoughtful, man. Like Gabe's just giving me like random, like I have a black sweater I have all sorts of stuff from Gabe. He's like, dude, I just thought this would look good on you, so I bought it for you. Like Gabe's thoughtful.
Hey, look at the friendship that it's created too. That goes a long way.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't even trying to. He was just like, he was really thoughtful and like thought of you in that case. It's a good balance.
No, I give you credit, Gabe. You are a thoughtful guy. But I also know the other side of you. And everyone who knows you, I think, would probably agree it'd be funny if you were the chief heart officer.
You know what? I think that I'd be very selective on situations. Be like, I'm not giving that person a gift for that. They caused that drama in their own life,
Yeah, I can't see Gabe like really getting angry or anything like that of anything. So I feel like he would be really good in that position.
Yeah.
We should talk about that, Gabe.
Let's do it, man. I'm in.
That's awesome, man. Well, so you know what's interesting? I had a talk with a friend the other day, and he hit me up. He's an affiliate, it's been in our space, and I think he's doing about $1 million a month right now, right? So he's doing pretty good. And he's like, I want to break 30 million. He's like, who should I talk to? And I had a few recommendations for him. And, I'm like, what's, we try to drill into like, what's your problem? Like, is your market scalable to that? And anyways, so he was like, you know what? I think my market is scalable. And like, what it came down to essentially was his operations. He's like, we just don't have any systems. And he's like, I'm killing myself to do this. And so we talked about that, and we talked about some solutions for him. But like, I kind of want to talk about scaling, man, because I've definitely noticed challenges when you go from making, $100,000 a month to like $1 million a month and 2 million and 3 million. Like, it changes how you have to operate the business, especially if you want stability.
Yep.
Have you found the same thing?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I had a challenge with that, in the very beginning when I would hit like a little bit of a plateau of like, how do we go to the next level? I just grew up of like working my ass off and working harder.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize you could actually work smarter instead of harder. So the smarter would be to take the step back. And I spent some time over like 3 months of like literally, I used to think so highly of myself that like nobody can do what I do. There's no way that anybody could sell the way that I sell. Like, it's just something that's in my mind. That's all it is. Then my business coach sat me down. Was like, I guarantee if you wrote out every single thing that you did in the sales process, in the client success process, then somebody else would be able to run that same exact system. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I got to put my ego aside and actually like write it all out. So like, what do? Yes, I write out, here's actually my script of how I say it. Here's my process. I build rapport and I figure out the challenge and I figure out the solution. So I wrote SOPs on how to talk to clients, how to get new clients, how to manage clients. So we got account management SOPs, we got new business development SOPs, and all of that came from what I would just do, which eventually became naturally, but I wrote it down in a system. And that's when I found that I started getting even better at what I did. Then when I started like doing media buying and got that under control, I was like, all right, what's the process that I use? What's the step-by-step? Literally, like if somebody who is 8 years old read this thing, they could follow it step-by-step. So I spent like 3 months just doing that. Initially, I would just wait until a Saturday and a Sunday, and I would just spend my Saturdays and Sundays for like 8-10 hours a day, just writing SOPs, standardizing every single piece, and then started letting my team test it and run it. And once I standardized the SOPs, I was like, I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist. So it kind of took a little bit of time. I'm like, well, I want them maybe in Asana. What's the best SOP process? What's the best technology to use? Like, screw that. I'm not going to have this analysis paralysis anymore. I'm just going to write it in a Google Doc, like step by step. Google Doc, put everything in the Google Doc. Like, we'll fix it and make it pretty later. Now we have some pretty stuff. We got Asana and Jira and all the other like stuff that we utilize nowadays. But that's what it really comes down to. It seems like it's not a revenue producing or profitable piece, but it actually is lifestyle producing and relieves that stress. And the biggest benefit is once you see somebody else run your process and duplicate the success that you've been able to achieve and actually get even more success than you've been able to achieve, it's so fulfilling. Like Gabe probably feels this too with his course that he has out there, like seeing some of these guys like actually take what you've put together and run the play and actually do pretty damn well with the play. Like, there's so much fulfillment of like, dang, I like duplicating myself kind of. And now that's the game is like, how do I duplicate myself consistently and take the stuff that I'm doing that's maybe not as productive as it should? I need to duplicate myself onto somebody else and let them run the process. Now that's my whole entire mission to do in the business, just duplicate myself over and over and over. And like, all right, the legal stuff, I know I go through step-by-steps with the legal stuff. I got to duplicate myself onto like a lawyer to do all this different stuff too. The operations stuff, duplicate that stuff. The finance stuff, duplicate myself, constantly duplicating myself. So that way I have a whole bunch of people that run that system, but they come from even better companies than I've come from, and they can take it and just take it to a whole nother level beyond measure.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah,
man.
That's awesome.
Craig, you really do the work, man. When I think about like taking the time to systemize all that stuff, it's like the last thing I want to do.
Yep.
And and that's how come we brought on my Who, which was that consulting company, the SEAL team guys. But like, I give you credit, man. That's a lot to write out, but the value's there. It's worth it.
Yeah. Now it's like, after reading Who Not How, I should have read Who Not How in the very beginning before creating all these SOPs. Now I found out there's actually who's out there that are just technical writers that love to create SOPs. Like, that's the stuff that they love to do. Like, I wouldn't totally love to do it, but I knew it was a part of growing the business, so I would do it anyways. But there's people out there that love to just create it. So could be just an SOP person that just writes SOPs all day long. We found one person in our business that loves SOPs. She loves writing standard operating procedures and putting together knowledge bases. Like, awesome. Shadow a couple of our people because they need some SOPs developed. So that's
awesome.
the who, not how now, like really has developed that a lot more and creating those SOPs.
Well, man, I feel like we've definitely developed a theme in this episode.
Yeah.
Huh?
We should just call it who, not how.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Even with your book that was over there on the back, I was like, oh shoot, you got that book right there.
Yeah, it's a really good book. Anyone who hasn't read it, they should. It's a great book.
Yeah. And man, a lot of Dan Sullivan stuff is phenomenal. And most of it's like 45 minutes. And you know what's fascinating about, or I wouldn't say fascinating, but it's funny about the Who Not How book? It's the perfect example of the principle because he didn't even write that book.
Yep.
He literally gave someone the concept. He finds people who understand the concepts and just empowers them to run with it.
It's so true. That's so true. Yeah, I'm on like when I read it, I realized that after going through the audiobook version, the guy who's even reading the audiobook version was the guy who actually wrote the book. Dan Sullivan didn't even like write the book. He had the guy write the book. Like fully lives the purpose of that book right there.
Oh, absolutely, man. You know, it's interesting that so when you go a strategic coach, they all talk about Dan quite a bit. And it's you kind of get more and more, like I've only gone to 3 sessions, but you get more in understanding of his personality and how he is. And he seems like a very high quick start. Sorry, what's that personality test where they have the quick start? It's slipping my mind right now.
Is it Myers-Briggs or
no,
the Colby test? I think it was like the Colby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Dan Sullivan, they're all about people's Colbys. Like your name tag has your name and then it has your Colby score on there. So it's pretty funny, but Dan is like total visionary, but like the whole operation runs because of the who's he surrounds himself with.
That's so good right there.
An amazing, man.
Isn't it crazy too? Like we're thinking about this, so like you think back at like maybe how you grew up, like, and now look at you of like you're so into personal development. We're talking about Colby disc profiles and like stuff like that. Like if you looked at yourself back in high school for the day that the person that you are now, you'd be like, who is this freaking guy going to personal development conferences and talking about Colby quizzes and like personality assessments and stuff like that? Back in the day, we would have thought that was stupid.
But I would have made fun of that person.
Yeah, exactly.
I was on the tram at the Tampa airport here yesterday, and I was watching a video on Twitter where the guy was talking about like how the banks, like just the problems the economy is having, what the Fed's doing, all this shit. Man, and I literally had that thought in the moment. I'm like, when I was a kid, I'm like, I just wanted another hockey stick.
Yeah.
I didn't care about any of this shit.
Yep.
Now I actually find this stuff interesting, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. But like, here I am spending my time listening to like what the Fed's going to do next or whatever bullshit's going on.
Yep.
But it's just so funny. You know, the one thought I've had, and you'll probably relate to this, man. If you look at the self, if you went back to the person you were 10 years ago, and you're like, man, Ruben today, would the guy from 10 years ago be proud of that guy?
Jeez. Oh man.
He'd be probably over the moon to the man you've become.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My fiance and I talk about this like all the time of like, isn't it amazing? Like we get to do what we do. Like, did you ever think we would be like getting these associations and talking to the people that we're talking to? There's people that we have met literally just over the past year that have made the biggest difference in our life. And we started thinking of like, who are the people we're going to meet in the next 12 months that we have no idea even exist right now that are going to make the biggest difference in our life? Crazy. We didn't know some of these people that are in our life now that are the biggest impact players in our life even existed 12 months ago. Now they're like our closest associations that like just level up our mindset in a totally different way. And that blows my mind of like, literally in the next 12 months, there's people that we're going to meet that we knew nothing about whatsoever. And they're going to change our life and change our thinking in the way that we think. Like, it's crazy that I think if there's people out there that think they're really, really far out from reaching the success that they want to reach, start thinking it's a lot closer than you think. It could be a month from here. It could be in a couple of weeks. It could be in like 12 months. But when you look back at it, like, man, we've come a long way. And it just came down to some of those people that we just met. Associations are everything. And they just changed the way that we thought. And then we just went down a different trajectory.
Man, I got the best story. So I met a realtor yesterday. I was in South Florida, And this realtor was the first realtor to sell a house of over $100 million. His clients are like billionaires. It's like people we would all know about. And so I was talking to him. I'm like, how long have you been a realtor for? And he's like, 6 years. I'm like, really? Wow. I'm like, you're selling these people's houses for this much money. You've been doing 6 years. He's like, yeah. I'm like, what were you before this? He was like, I was a nanny.
Like, wow. What? Wow.
Dude, he's like, I dropped out of high school. He's like, I worked at a surf shop. Best store in the world. He's like, I worked at a surf shop. And he's like, I was just teaching surf lessons. And this one family thought I did a good job with their kids. So they're like, hey, could you teach them a couple times a week? And he's like, I went from teaching them, private surf classes to they're like, hey, we're going on a family trip. Like, could you help us watch our kids? Because they really like you. And this guy was probably my age. Like, he stopped being a nanny probably in his late 20s or early 30s. Crazy. And now he's absolutely killing it. But like, he got to fly around. He was like, I was literally a paid sibling for like 30 years of my life. Wow. Or whatever up to this point. But like, the network he built was unreal. But dropped out of high school. His dad, I forget what his dad did. His mom was a nurse. Like, just, millions of people do these jobs. But it was so crazy. Like, he just had no background whatsoever. But he just met the right person. He got the right opportunity and he followed it through. And now he's like one of the top realtors in his area, which, being a realtor, man, I would not want to be. That is a very competitive market.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's interesting too, Tyler, because, like, we see all these people on social media, on Instagram, and all out there on TikTok. Like, we see everything like it's an overnight success, rather than like, you didn't see all the patience and all the drive and all the work that it took and the connections and going out there and networking with people, getting to know people, building relationship for years before the $100 million real estate sale came. Like, there was all this stuff that led into it, that led into that conversation, that led into that family, that led into that contact that he made, which changed the trajectory and possibly his last name forever too. And like the way that he goes from here on out. So yeah, there's such a big power in like just being patient with yourself too, but like being impatiently patient with yourself, of like putting in the work still, but knowing it's not going to be just 1 month. It's not going to be just 2 months. There's probably some challenges that you'll have to go through, some work that you have to put in. Maybe got to be a nanny for a little bit too. And then your break comes at one point. So so many people think that it's just an overnight success. A lot.
Everything takes much longer than you think it is, but you can make quick moves.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. That's right, man. And that was like just one connection that he had right there. Yeah. One connection.
Literally just one, man. And like, it was actually a really cool experience because he took me up and down the neighborhoods. He showed me what houses were worth. He's like, this person lives here, that person lives there. And like, it was just such an experience. It's very humbling to see like some of the one house we drove up to, we didn't go in, but it was listed for over $200 million.
Wow.
And he's like, I sold this for $85 million. Amazing. And he's like, now it's listed for 200 a couple of years later. But man, it was such a freaking awesome experience. But like, the real inspiration was his story.
Yeah. And it's things like that too. Like, your mind has probably expanded a lot more too. Like, man, I thought I was pretty big time. I bought a $6 million house, like freaking awesome. Everything, never imagined me buying a $6 million house. And then you start getting around him. He's like, oh, I sold this one for 80 million, this one for 100 million, this one for 200 million. You're like, oh shoot. Like, I thought I was doing something, but I got to work a little bit harder and a little bit smarter. I got to get around some of these people and change your mindset a little bit more too, of like, I thought I was doing something, but you get a little humbled a little bit more too. Like, all right.
I love that though. I absolutely love that. I love feeling like I'm the brokest guy in the room.
Yep.
I have this one friend that he's been such a phenomenal mentor for me, but he's a good friend of mine I've known for years. His company just got 2 valuations and they're both over $2 billion. And he owns almost 100%. He doesn't own 100%, but almost. And man, every time I think I'm doing something, I call him and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm over here in like New Zealand. I'm like, what are you doing in New Zealand? He's like, we just bought this company for 50 million. And like, he just slides that in there. Like, it's like, oh, it's just Tuesday. I'm buying a company here for 50 million. I'm like, dude, I'm literally doing
that. Is his Tuesday though. That's why he's
crazy. And it's so inspiring, man. And it's always good to be like, Tony Robbins says proximity is power.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever go to his business mastermind, he has a great story about it. And he talks about how how I think he made over $100 million in a day just by going down that road of being around successful people, being in the mix of everything.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it's just fascinating, man. Just being around the right people, building the network. Your network truly is your net worth.
It really is. It really is. We experienced this ourselves too. We went to the Warriors game, and we're sitting right next to the owner of the Warriors, Joe Lacob, and I was just listening to him, call the game. They're going into halftime, and the Warriors were already up by 10 points, like going into halftime. Then the lead got cut short to only like 5 points going into halftime. Halftime hits, and he's like, "This is unacceptable. Unbelievable. I can't believe this is happening." He was pissed. And we're like, the Warriors are winning right now going into halftime.
Yeah.
But he was so pissed because this guy had money on the line. He's worth, I think, over like $1.6 billion or something like that. So I was like, all right, this is how it is to be an owner of the team. Everybody knows Steph Curry and Draymond Green and all those stars and Steve Kerr. But we're like, man, this guy sitting next to us is the guy who funds all these guys, who could say whether they're fired or hired or let go. And also the guy who built this whole entire Chase Center that we're sitting in right now. So my mind started expanding of like, I got to think like an owner instead of like the player on the floor. Where like, how do we get some coaches involved? How do we get a GM involved? Like how he has a GM involved in the whole entire organization. So that happened at halftime. And then we sit back down, and my fiance, she was like, I want to wear these sparkly boots and everything for the Warriors game. So like she wore these sparkly boots. So we're like, we got to take a picture at least while you have your sparkly boots on and all that stuff. So we asked the guy sitting to the left of us, like, hey, can you take a picture of us? So he takes a picture of us. We look at it. We're like, you didn't get the boots. You got to get the boots. So he gets down low, gets on the floor and everything too, gets the right angle to get the boots and everything like that. And we're like, okay, now you got it. And we're like, hey, what was your name, by the way? He goes, oh, Douglas Leone. I was like, man, that's kind of interesting. Nobody ever says like, oh, Ruben Resendez. Like everybody says, oh, my name is Ruben. Nice to meet you and everything. He introduces us to his friends. His friends were also managing partners of the Warriors and everything. And now that we've been going to the games, like we've gotten to know them and become really good friends with them and everything too. But that night we go back home. We're like, there's something interesting about him saying what his name was, Douglas Leone. Like, let me look up his name. So I look him up. This guy's worth over $6.1 billion, managing partner at Sequoia Capital, big VC firm, like here in the Valley, in Silicon Valley. So it expanded my mind where I'm like, dang, we're sitting next to this guy who's a multi-billionaire. And then another guy who's a multi-billionaire to the right of us. We're like, everybody's billionaires in our world. Like this whole entire like multi-millionaire and stuff like that. Like we're thinking too small. We got to think so much bigger. So like our mind expanded where it's like proximity is power, and being proximity to all these billionaires sitting to the left of us and the right of us. We're like, we're the only ones not billionaires. We got to be billionaires. We got to do something different to make sure we expand. So there's nothing like proximity like that where it's like, dude, we got to go to a whole nother level.
That's crazy.
We got to think bigger. Like we thought we're doing something. We're doing nothing. Like these guys are buying $40 million homes, like, and $40 million third homes. It's not even the primary residence and stuff. Like there's a whole another life that's out there that we got to like go and expand into. So proximity.
That realtor. Yeah, man, that realtor actually yesterday, he's like, oh, I sold this one for 70 million. And I'm like, oh man, that's cool. But they probably moved down here. He's like, oh no, they come here for Thanksgiving. And he's like, that's it. Maybe Christmas. Are you serious? I'm like, man, what a problem to have.
But isn't that amazing though? Is like you look at some of those families and some of these people like we've come across. Like I started digging in so deeply into that guy that was sitting to the left of us, and like just became obsessed about learning Joe Lacob's story as well too. That I think every single person who you see as successful or wealthy or living the life that you want to live, there was one person in that family that decided to step up to say the poverty and the lack and the thinking stops now. We're going to stop thinking that we were thinking previously before. And in our family lines, this is where it stops. I'm going to be the one that stands up. I'm going to be the one that takes the sacrifice to go to the next level and to 10x everything that we've been doing, whether it's in my health, whether it's in my finances, whether it be whatever my family does, it changes with me. There's got to be one person that steps up in a family line that says it stops now. Like I come from a family where both sides of my family have diabetes, like serious diabetes. Yeah. So for me to get up every single morning and go to the gym and look the way that I look, like it's not seen in my family. Everybody in my family are both are obese, like on both sides of my family. But one person has to step up and say the obesity and the diabetes and not caring about our health, like stops now. It stops with me. The whole entrepreneurship thing and the way that we're thinking that it's not for us, it's not for our family, it's not for our last name, it stops with me. If anybody's going to be something great and change our last name forever, it's got to be me. The challenge is not everybody steps up to the plate and is that one, but there's always one person that stands up. And when we look at all these families that are buying the $100 million homes and buying the Warriors basketball teams and then are managing partners at these VC firms, there was that one person that stepped up and did it. And it might have been them. So I wonder, on this call, it's maybe you and I, Tyler, that we're the people in our family that stepped up and say, like, it stops now. The lack thinking, the like small thinking, it stops. We're going to continue to think big. And now our kids are going to have a totally different lifestyle. And then hopefully we raise them well enough where they start thinking even bigger than how we're thinking and they use it as a platform. And that's my prayer, that my son uses it as a platform to go to a whole nother level for it too. But that's like what you and I were talking about. We got to balance it all out with it all. So that's it right there.
Dude, I love it, man. Yep. This has been fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for popping on again. It's been such a pleasure to have you and just to reconnect.
Yeah, seriously. I love being on it in the last time too. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are providing so much value out there. And, just like you guys follow my mission too, is that, you're giving value out there without even asking anything in return. But you've probably seen over the years of doing this that you do get a lot in return without even expecting it.
Absolutely, man. It's definitely come full circle, not in the way that you expect, but in such a better way, better than you could expect.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I love that right there. So true.
So with that, man, I think we'll wrap it up. But dude, thank you for being on. Pleasure to have you on again. For anyone listening, usually Gabe does this part, but give us a 5-star review on, was it Apple something and Stitcher, Amazon and Stitcher, maybe? I don't know. But regardless, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you found this valuable. Again, Ruben, such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate being on again.
Take care.